watching? Are you watching this? Are you watching this? Yeah. Are you watching this? No. You need to get with it. Are you watching this? We on a TV shit. Are you watching this? You don't wanna miss. Are you watching this? Stop canceling our shit.
Or am I?
I think you.
Okay.
Right? Because I led the last one? Yeah?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of made my office look halfway presentable.
It looks good. Yeah.
Huh?
It looks good.
Thank you. It's a work in progress. Maybe I'll paint it soon.
You can't tell. Like I can't see any chipped paint or anything.
That's good because I on the other side there's like this swatches of paint that've been there for
that's funny.
over a year. So
listen, home projects are never ending and the worst. So I don't blame you.
We've been renovating this house for 5 years, and I think it's going to be another 5 years. So.
Well, the good thing is you bought it. It's yours.
Very true. Very true. Okay. We have so much to get into. This episode was so good.
It was. I am very excited to talk about it. I geeked out over, I think, every single aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then let's get into it. You are listening to the Are You Watching This podcast? I'm Chelsea S., and I am a huge fan of Defiant Jazz.
And I'm Ellen, and I realized that I need to make sure that all my loved ones have like a code name for me in case my body does get taken over by aliens. So if I ever come to and you know, they ask me like, hey, what's your name or something, we have an understanding of if it's really me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's, I think, very necessary.
Yeah, okay. We'll figure out what that is maybe along the way.
Right, exactly.
Hopefully. Okay, so we're going to be talking about Severance Season 2, Episode 2. It is titled Goodbye, Miss Selvig. So last episode was Hello, Miss Cobell, and now we're saying bye to her. We start off where we pick up with Mark's Audi at the end of Season 1, right back up where we started, which I liked the contrast of last episode was all Audis.
Yeah.
This episode, no, other way around. Last episode was all innies.
Yeah.
This episode's all Audis.
Yes, I agree. I literally big kisses to everyone involved. Dan Erickson, who's actually the creator, who I feel like I had to Google and write his name down because I'm like, wait, we're giving Ben Stiller all the credit, and rightly so. He's the producer, but let's, credit where credit is due. But big kisses to them all because I love that we had a full episode of the innies aftermath and then a full episode of the Audis aftermath.
Yeah, and I think too, what I wrote down the first time I watched it a total of 3 times, was that it felt like last season, at least, we're only 2 episodes in, but last season to me what was most interesting was the innies. And then this season, I'm really curious to see where the Audis go.
I agree. And I think there is so much more story to the Audis than the innies this time around. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, in the first scene with Mark picking up with his Audi, there wasn't much going on in this scene except just Devin kind of checking in with him, saying, "Is this you now?" And he says yes. He seems a little confused, but not too much going on in this specific scene.
Yeah.
But then we pick up with Helena, so Helly R's Audi. And what we learned last season is that she's Helena. The Audi version is not maybe a villain.
Yeah, there is a dark aspect to her world. And her father scared the shit out of me.
I just wrote Helena's dad, weirdo.
Yeah, definitely. He seems very like non-human too.
Yes.
Like
like
if
one
he
of
were
the
to like unzip himself and just like this creature came, I would not be surprised.
he looks like one of the statues that was in the perpetuity wing of the Egans,
Yes, yeah, agreed.
but in
It's
real life, I guess.
yeah, very odd.
We get this really tense interaction between Helena and her dad, and he calls her a fetid moppet.
Yes.
Did you look up what that meant?
Yes. Actually, I did not actually know because I follow Apple TV Plus on Instagram and
Hmm.
they put the description. But go ahead. Do you know what it is?
I mean, I looked up what fetid meant and moppet, but I don't. If them together, does it have kind of a different meaning?
Right, because they're fetid is like a sour smell or something,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
then moppet is just like a clown,
Okay.
basically,
Yeah, the
right?
definition I found online for moppet was like small, endearing, sweet child, but clown would kind of make more
Oh,
sense, a, like a little rugrat, a little
yeah.
rascal.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. But then also, I did you do you think he was saying that to Helena or to like did he know she was back? The Audi was back?
I assumed so,
Yeah,
right? Because she
I
goes,
assume so.
father.
Right, but then his face kind of
Yeah.
turned into a way where it was like, "Oh, okay, she's back." I don't know.
There was a lot going on in this episode where I was like, this is what I'm thinking's happening, but I really, they don't confirm it. And
Right.
so I'm just really not sure.
Yeah, true. Okay. I
Uh,
guess we will find out though. Like that's another thing about the show. They do give
yeah,
you the answers, so
they
it's all right.
do. They do. I did have a question. Do we think I could pull off micro bangs like Ellie R's character or Helena's? She looks so good with them.
She really does. She absolutely kills it. I
I
think
don't
you
think I could
can.
though.
I think you could. I'm trying to like the shape. I think you could like these mic like up here.
Yeah, like a little micro fringe.
Yeah, I don't know. The thing is also, well, you might. Never know. But
I,
don't do it right now.
I don't want to look like oh, what's her name from Beetlejuice? I was just thinking
Oh, what is her name?
Winona Ryder's
Winona Ryder.
character.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Lydia. There we go.
Yes.
Okay, so we have this tense little scene, and then in the next one we have Devin, and he's leaving work after his innie was caught doing the OTC, the overtime contingency.
Dylan, yes.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Oh yeah, I wrote Devin. Dylan. Ugh.
that's okay.
And the thing that was really interesting to me on this one was the frame when he's walking out of the Lumen building and they switch from the light directly on the carving on the wall of Kier
Mhm.
and they
Mhm.
changed it to the ominous one. That was just very impactful.
Very, which I wanted to mention this in the beginning and I'm going to do it now. I'm probably going to mention it throughout this episode. The directing was incredible. And I know you gave Ben a nomination
Mhm.
on our other episode for his directing, but to me, this one was incredible.
I know I felt like I jumped the gun after watching this one, but you know what? I did it. You
It's
know,
okay. It's
yeah,
okay. I don't. We can figure out if we can rescind. I don't think we can, but it's all right. You gotta, make your
yeah,
bed, lie in it.
yeah.
But the director Sam Donovan looked him up. Incredible directing from him on this episode. Just the lighting, the pacing. Yeah, it was very
Hmm.
ominous. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. Um, yeah, and then we go back to Helly, and she's talking to Milchek now, and she's telling him to go find out who everybody talked to when they were
Mhm.
during the OTC,
Yes.
um, what they
We.
know, who they talked to, and he asks, "Should I fire them?" And she says, "Let Kier guide your hand,"
Yeah.
which that was like, it just reinforces kind of the cult vibe, and
Yeah.
also how much they're committed to Lumen and their loyalty is to Lumen.
Yeah. Agreed. And that they're actual weirdos. Like none of them are sane, you know what I mean? It's not a normal setting of workers and people. They would give their lives for this. I don't think a normal person would give their life for Target or or I don't know. They shouldn't is what I'm thinking. But yeah.
They're very much brainwashed.
Right. Exactly. I do want to go back. We did get introduced to a character.
Yes. And we don't learn his name until like a scene or two later, but he definitely is very noticeable the way he carries himself into that frame.
Yeah, and he's like big, so you
Hmm.
can't really miss him. Also, we did learn his name. I missed that.
Yes. They only say it
Yeah.
once.
Okay.
And I did I write down when we learn it? But yeah, it's well, where did it go? When I find it in my notes, I'll bring it back up.
It's okay. You know what? Keep going, and then when you
Okay.
get there, we get there. It's all right. Sorry for jumping around.
Yeah, I think it's like Drummond or something like that.
Okay.
Um so then Helena goes to talk to Miss Cobell in the conference room.
Hmm.
And so in the first episode, we're under the assumption that she got fired because of her actions in the prior season. But at the very end, what she does is she goes and runs and tells them that they're doing the OTC so they can stop it. And so Helen is talking to her about actually asking her if she wants to come back on board and giving her a promotion.
Yes. Um. Yeah. And Miss Cobell, all she wants is an apology, first and foremost, because she was kind of like, "I saved y'all's asses," which she
Yeah,
did.
that scene
I
was
got it.
intense.
Yeah, it was the stare down. The Patricia Arquette killed that shit.
She
Like,
did.
yeah. And Helena does apologize on behalf, like she apologizes for herself, for her father, for the board, right?
Yeah, and for whatever reason, when I know we're second season episode 2, I'm now trying to wonder who actually is the board. That thought like never really crossed my mind. Like okay, the board, we don't know who it is, but
Yeah,
that scene I was like, wait, who is it?
I agree because on other shows you do find out, and for me, the most recent show with a board was Succession, and you do learn who the board members are quite early on. And we've gone a whole season, and we still don't know who the board is, right? But we do know her father is owner, and we do know who the head people are. So it's really. Do you believe there is a board?
That was again a thought that crossed my mind when I was like trying to think, well, who would be the board? I was like, maybe it's not even real.
You know what? Yeah, could be. But then wouldn't Cobell know that? Do you think she's that in with the company? Because she's maybe it's
I don't
not.
know.
Yeah, maybe it's not. Because all they gave her was the intercom too, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So Helena offers her this promotion. It's a fake role that she's created.
Hmm.
So I'm sure it's pretty insulting to Miss Cobell, right? Harmony.
Yeah, and she read that shit like she was like, "This sounds fake. This is stupid," um, and all she wants to do is go back to the severance floor. And I feel like she would. I don't know how she would have played it out, but I don't think it would have been pretty for the innies down there if she did come back. You know?
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, the first time I watched this scene, Helena apologizes to her. It is a tense scene, and she says that she welcomes her contrition. And I guess I honestly thought that she took the job for some reason, and so that she actually wasn't fired. So when Milchick in the first episode said that she was, that was either a lie or he didn't know.
Hmm.
But then after rewatching the episode for the third time, I was like, oh, wait, maybe I don't think she took the job. I think she just leaves.
By the end of the episode,
Yeah,
yeah. You think so? Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. Let me mull this over as we go through it because I had that as a question at the end too. Like, did she leave as she's packing up? But I don't know.
I don't
Because
know
I don't think
either.
she's gone. But, anyways.
No, not altogether for sure, but I just
Yeah.
think maybe she's leaving Lumen and
Yeah.
wherever they live.
Yeah. The only thing for me is she was also so heavily involved in, oh, well, not heavily involved, but she really believed in the cult, right? She had the shrine in her house. So I don't know if it felt, and then she also went out of her way, even though she was already fired by that point, to go and warn them. So the only thing I'm thinking is, did she feel that betrayed by them that she was like, fuck this? Or, and so I quit. So she doesn't want to be a part of it anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm curious to. I definitely don't think she took that role.
Yeah, no, I don't think no. I wrote down how she says, "You don't value me, you fear me." That I think was very poignant, very important to remember.
Yeah, and then in response, Helena says, we fear no one."
Yeah, which again, I feel like chess moves were being made right there.
Yeah, and another thing that I started to kind of really think about too, and I think it's an interesting aspect of the show, is the family dynamic. So she's working for the family company,
Hmm.
and I think they'll kind of lean into that a little bit more this season, obviously, because we didn't find out that she was part of it until later. But
Last
obviously,
episode.
family is really important. I think both of us know what it's like to work for a family company. We know that
We do.
dynamic. And
We
I think
do.
being a woman in a family run business as well is
Yeah.
also super tricky. And I
Yeah.
think they were kind of starting to show this when Miss Cobell asks Helena if Mr. Egan was going to be joining them. To me, that
Yeah.
indicated that Miss Cobell was like, "You're not good enough. I need somebody higher up."
Yeah. To tell me what to do or to whatever. Yes, I agree. I think that's a thing that's been shown also, and again, I'm going to reference Succession because I think that's the most recent example of family business, and then the women within that family business with what was her name?
Shiv?
Shiv. Yeah, Shiv. Actually, now the internet is making a huge, not even huge, but like comparisons between Shiv and Helena. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I haven't.
Yeah. And I think it is because of their roles within their family businesses, and even making the comparisons between Logan Roy, who was his father, and Helena's father was Egan, which I'm like,
That's
I don't know if it's people like wanting, like holding on to Severance and never wanting to let go because it was such a, I mean, to Succession because it was such a good show, or, people actually just generally making connections that I think are cool to make too.
I definitely there is some connection there, even if it's not as big as people are playing into it. But
Yeah.
there is something.
Yeah, I agree.
After Miss Cobell and Helena have that exchange,
Yes.
Mr. Milchick goes on his way to talk to the rest of the team, and he's on a motorcycle. And I
Mhm.
did not picture him as a motorcycle guy.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. It gives him what? It gave him kind of an edge, or.
yeah. It. I just felt like he seems so calculated, and he doesn't take a lot of risks. So riding
Mm.
a motorcycle feels very risky, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Totally agree, actually. But it
But
was
he
really
looked good on
cool.
it.
Yeah, he did. All leather, the helmet, that got
Mhm.
mentioned after. But yeah, he did look good on it a lot.
One little detail, and I have a couple of these little things that I wrote down um, about the episode that, again, we talked about this last episode when we were talking about episode one. I don't think that it's that serious, but I think there are these little Easter eggs or like continuity things that are just really interesting to notice.
Yeah, agreed. Excellent choice of words, by the way. Agreed.
And in this one, we have on his license plate on the motorcycle, it says, um, it's Latin, remedium hominibus,
Okay.
which means remedy mankind,
Okay.
or it like that's the words what they mean
Yeah,
when I
like
Google them.
the, yeah.
But what was interesting though is that I guess that's the state motto because it's like underneath it, and we don't really know it. I think they live in a made up state that's owned by
Within
Kier,
America.
or yeah,
Oh, you think so?
yeah, because there's Kier on the back of the license plate,
Hmm.
and then the newspaper that Milchick shows Mark in the first episode is called the Kier Times.
Hmm.
and everybody lives like in Lumen housing.
Okay. Yeah, that's
So
true. It's like either a like a work town, or yeah, that's true. But you can't really get a license plate from work town, so it would have to be the state, which is pretty crazy. Yeah. And then also maybe would make a little sense as to why they mentioned a state in that first episode. Like, what state are we in? You know? But then also another state is mentioned in this episode by the other Mark when we get to the scene where they're all getting in, and then he was like, I had to leave Grand Rapids for this.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. So they're not there. Well,
Right.
they're at least not in Grand Rapids.
Right. They're not in Michigan. But yeah.
Um. Oh, so yeah, it's the new character that we meet is Mr. Drummond.
Oh,
Drummond.
okay.
I think
I
that's how you
did
say his
not
name.
catch that. Okay.
So Milchek runs off on his motorbike to talk to everybody, and then Helena starts recording this PR video that they're going to show to the public or whatever with
Yeah.
her terrible excuse for what happened.
Right. I feel like it wasn't even well, it was an attempt at an excuse, but she was like owning it at the same time. You know, like it was a joke, but it was that like I don't know. Like she mentions that it was a joke and a lie. Did she say a lie? I can't remember.
I don't know about that, but I know like she makes the excuse that she consumed alcohol with the non-lumen medication. So
Yeah.
that's the excuse for like why she did the outburst or like
Right.
that she was drunk and was trying to be funny. She definitely did mention that at the end.
Yeah. 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 It was a weird video, and it was very telling as to how like staged the Lumen brand has to be, or like appearance has to be.
So Milchek, then we just see him kind of going to Irv's house and Dylan's house, and he ends up firing them. So obviously that was his choice, remember? Because Helena was like, let Kier guide you.
Yeah.
And when he did that, it made me so sad.
I know. I know. I was like, oh, this sucks. Yeah. But he was way more kinder to Irving than to Dylan, rightly so. I feel
Yeah.
like, yeah. I mean, Dylan got into a whole tussle with, I mean, he used the excuse with Dylan about Dylan getting into an altercation with another employee and stuff like that. So, and then his face was way more, no emotions being shown in the firing. And then with Irving, there was a lot of emotion there, and even went as far as to say that he likes his innie and thinks they're friends or some shit. Which I don't know about all that, but okay.
There was a lot of lies being thrown around this episode.
Yeah, yeah,
The last thing that I noticed in the first scenes before the new intro that we see in Helena's PR video at the end, she says, "But I am human, just like my Annie, and just like you."
yeah,
And that stuck out to me because in season one, I kept trying to figure out each of the characters' position on like if an Annie is a real person or the human. And I wrote down in episode 4 of season one, when Helena does a video for Helly, when Helly threatens to cut off her fingers, and she says, "You are not human."
yeah,
So she threatens her, right? And
yeah,
so obviously Helena doesn't believe that.
yeah.
That's part of
Agreed.
the PR.
Yes, exactly. Of it
So
all, of the show, of it all.
so that begs the question, are they human?
Which, yeah, who knows? I think they're human, but the way that the Egans truly separate them from being human is so bizarre, because yeah, it's so bizarre because it's still one body.
Is
Is
it
it?
one body?
Oh no, my
I
mind.
agree with you though, because I was thinking about it. I was like, no, the way that I have envisioned it from the beginning, it is the same human being.
Yeah,
It's just their brains get turned off and
yeah,
on.
Exactly. That's how I'm picturing it. Or at least that's also, I feel like, what they've been trying to sell us, that that's what takes place, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, the I'm also human, just like my Indian, just like you, was a definite lie and very, very weird to even say, you know? Yeah. Because I guess it's to humanize her and her family's brand, maybe too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And because the we know from last season, and I think they're starting to really reinforce it again in this season, is that the severed people are not treated very well. They're discriminated against. And so I think
Yeah.
it's to kind of help that image as well.
Right. That's true. Yeah. And then we also get to see how they are discriminated against when Dylan goes for his job interview, but we'll get to that. Yeah.
We get the new intro, which is somehow even trippier than last season.
Yes. Trippier and like creepy.
Were there any aspects of it that stuck out to you when you were watching it?
Yeah, like the balloon heads. So much the or it was a lot. It was a lot going on, but you could tell what was happening too. It wasn't too insanely like weird. No, it was weird, but it wasn't. You don't get lost in it,
Yeah.
basically. But that final shot really creeped me out.
Well, and I wrote down, it looks like, because it kind of flashes back and forth,
Uh huh.
that it's Miss Casey and Heliar.
Oh, wait, what final shot are you talking about?
In the
Is that the final shot?
elevator? Or are you talking? No, maybe that's the second. The
Oh, in the
elevator?
elevator. Yeah.
Which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about like him actually coming out, like Adam Scott coming out, like the innies trying to come out.
That's like
Yeah.
something you see when you take shrooms.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, a very like Alien versus Predator or some shit. I'm like, what the hell?
Another thing that I noticed, and again, I don't think it's that serious. I saw some repetition of this throughout the episode that I also noticed in the intro is last season the kind of the common theme with colors was blue versus green,
Mm,
which was kind of building up to this idea of MDR versus O&D.
hmm.
But in this intro, it's blue and red, and they're not
Yeah,
really versus each other. They're kind of working together.
yeah, I noticed that too. I did
And
too.
there's a couple other little scenes where I see it, and it seems like the blue represents any, and the red is the Audi. But the red's so aggressive of a color as well.
It is, right? And I feel like the blue is it's a nice blue. It's a calm blue. It's not like a royal blue. It's a nice blue.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. Um, do you like that they did a whole different opening credit sequence?
Surprisingly, I did.
Yeah, I agree. Me too. I'm a fan. I think it separates, the seasons, and I think that's cool. And I'm sure by the end of it, we'll get the whole story of why the opening credit looks like this, like why it is this now. Just like I know when I was rewatching season one, I was like, oh, when I was watching the opening credits there too. Yeah, I get it now.
Which last season's opening credits did win an Creative Emmy.
It did.
Hmm.
Oh, I love that for them. Deserved. Yeah. And I saw that Ben Stiller actually like tagged the person who made it
Hmm.
on his socials. So that was really cool.
Okay, after the intro, we go back to Mark with Devin and Rickon after the whole situation. And they're kind of just trying to figure out what's what, why Mark was screaming, she's alive.
Yeah.
They're kind of saying it's because, well, they are saying it's because they found the baby,
Yeah. Well, Mark
Eleanor.
and Rickon are saying that. Devin, his sister, not so convinced.
She acts like she is
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
kind of diffuse the situation.
Yes, because Mark gets really tense about it and worked up about it. And then they do talk about then why he grabbed the photo. Like what why did he run in with the photo of his wife and him? If yeah, what that could have meant.
Yeah, which, I mean, we know what it means, but we'll leave it to that situation.
Yeah.
Then
I
Milchick
also
shows. Oh, yes.
sorry, I also love that Rickon called Mark's any Mark's worky.
Yes,
That made
yes.
me laugh.
Which I think is interesting because I feel like in season one, did he call him that before? Because they had this like big discussion about it,
Yeah, at that dinner with their friends or whatever. Yeah. No, I don't think he did because I feel like I would have remembered that.
and
Yeah.
it seems like Rickon really liked his Innie because he said he's a great guy,
Yeah. But also, I feel like Rickon doesn't dislike a lot of people.
and he just liked that he liked his book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. True.
One other thing that I just made a comment about is that baby, that fake baby in that scene. Everything else about the show was like so on point, but that
Yeah.
baby was so fake. And I think that it was probably just a leftover from the Apple TV show Servant, where they had like the actual fake babies.
Yeah.
I think they're like, let's just grab one of those; it'll be cheaper.
That's so funny. I really didn't take a look at the baby. Were they like manhandling it too in a way that you could notice it was a fake baby?
I just noticed it was a fake baby.
Okay.
I could just tell. You didn't see its face; it wasn't moving.
Yeah. To be fair, they do spend a lot of money on the other shit that matters, so I'm gonna give it to them.
I
Their budget is
guess
big. They gotta cut costs somehow. Listen, in this economy, you gotta cut costs somehow.
fair, fair. So Milchick shows up. He's trying to see what's going on. When he gets there, though, did you notice that Devin covers up the wedding photo
Yes.
with the towel?
Yeah.
That brought up the question to me because I just couldn't remember if this has ever actually been verified. Does Milchick know about the connection of Gemma and Miss Casey?
I definitely think so. I think
I
so.
I assumed that he did too, but I was like, maybe he doesn't.
I definitely think so because when she covered it, I was more so thinking he would question why it was out because the whole point was for him to find out if Mark knew about Miss Casey, right? Like if there he knew he figured out the connection there. If that's what his innie was told him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
sorry,
think that's true
sister.
too. That
Yeah,
thought popped in my head.
yeah. Also, did they ever mention Mark S's last name last season? Oh,
They did
okay,
like once or twice, yeah.
okay, okay. Because I was like, oh, Scout. Okay, cool. That's what
I
the
do
S
think
stands
we
for
learned Dylan's last name.
in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
There are reveals about the Audis during this episode that I'm like, was this necessary? Like, yeah, was this necessary, and why was this necessary? But when we get to those scenes, I'll speak more about it.
Yeah. Uh, Rickon does mention that Milchick has a nice helmet, which he does.
Yes,
And I
he
wrote
does.
down, I asked if that was evidence that he's the third member of Daft Punk, because exactly what the helmet looked like.
That's true. That's very true. But also Milchick doesn't seem like a person who cheaps out on quality. You know, like he is gonna get
Mm-hmm.
the right shit. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great character analysis right there.
Yeah.
I wrote down so many notes. I want to make sure I don't skip anything, but also like none of it was really that important.
Yeah.
I liked to, Devin asks, well, Milchick's like, what happened? What did you hear? And Devin asks, are you going to punish him
Hmm.
if I tell you? And he goes, oh, we don't have punishments at Lumen. Lies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lies.
Right? Yeah. So weird.
So, yeah, they don't really give up much in this interaction. You know, Mark's just
No.
like, we're tired. Nothing really happened. What?
I sorry, go
Continue.
ahead.
No, no, no. You
Oh,
go, go. You go.
I was just gonna say I'm so glad they didn't give it up. I was like, thank God they're lying. And there was a moment where Mark, was the person who was either gonna tell the truth of what happened or not. And I'm glad he distrusted the whole situation and like took a second and yeah, lied to Milchick.
I agree. And the way that the scene more or less ends is Milchick tells Mark that what his Innie did was really brave. and he would hate to reward his any with non-existence.
Yeah. Fucking weird.
What does that mean? Like, it's just
Death?
so weird. Exactly. So that
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, are you saying that not like so Mark would be the murderer of this person who's not a person? Like, yeah. I it was a threat. It was like a manipulative tactic. Very deliberate choice of words.
trying to make him feel guilty.
Yes, exactly. Um, yeah, I hated that for Mark, but it's all right. And also to note, Mark is the only one out of the people, out of Dylan, Irving, and Mark that Milchick goes to see that doesn't get fired.
Yes, and we kind of slowly learn a little bit more about that as the episode goes on, but not enough. Okay.
Yes, agreed. Even in this scene, I was like, okay, wait, Mark didn't get fired. Why is that? But yeah, then later we find out a little bit more.
There's just a quick frame of Irving on his bed. He's petting his dog, and he pulls out the map that he'd had with him when he was his innie, where Bert's name is circled.
Yeah.
There is in season 1 when Irving, again, this is just a continuity thing that I was like, this is so neat that they pay attention to this. In season 1, when Irving goes to wellness, and you know how she goes, your Audi loves to read, your Audi is brave,
Yeah.
whatever it is. She
Yeah.
says that his Audi likes the sound of radar, which is weird.
Yeah.
But we also learned that his dog's name is Radar.
Oh, whoa. That's really cool that you noticed that.
When she said it the first time, I was like, that's a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
And so I just happened to like notice it I think there's a very quick scene where you find out his name's Radar.
Yeah. It is very cool how like the break room, right? You think the break room is where they go and relax, but really they break you. It's like the double meaning of a word that they continue to do. So that's really, again, really smart of them.
Double use of the word. That's also, yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
way to phrase that. We see there's a couple like little quick scenes back and forth. Helena's looking at the footage from the severed floor. She sees her and or Helly are and Mark kissing.
Yes.
She watches it from a couple different angles.
The perv.
What did you think that she was doing there, or like feeling watching that video?
I couldn't tell. And also I made the mistake of seeing too many people's comments online about it. So then when I watched it for the second time, I had that playing in my mind. I'm like, oh, is this what I saw? Can I see this in her face? Like this person said, but I don't think so. I think, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? What was playing in her face?
I don't know either. The only thing that I picked up, even on the first watch, is that it made her very like nervous or anxious. I think the weight of either how complicated it's made it, or like if maybe her dad found out, she could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
With the board.
Yeah, true.
But obviously they do know about it because they mentioned it in episode 1.
And then they mention it again this episode. A Milchick episode mentions it. So I'm like, okay, so they all have seen the footage and they know what took place. I don't know if maybe, you know how last season when she does that video to let her and Helly know that she's not human. Maybe this like humanized her any, and she was watching that take place, so kind of broke that boundary that she keeps trying to enforce between her and her any, you know.
Yeah.
And also we don't know anything about Helena's personal life. We don't know if she's married. I don't think so. If she has a lover or whatever, but maybe I don't know, maybe we find out later that she was longing for a connection with someone and now her innie's got it. So in a way she's also got it. and that's what's playing in her face. That's what
Yeah.
I am thinking. But those are huge leaps I'm taking. So I don't know. Yeah.
No, I mean, I definitely think the humanization part, that I think that makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah. I think so. I think if you see someone exhibit that kind of emotion towards someone, yeah, it's hard to ignore.
Um, the scene after this, well, we see Mark. He's looking for Miss Cobell for like that night, and then the next day she's MIA at this point.
Yeah.
And then I loved the scene. Dylan goes for his job interview at the door store.
Yeah.
Great doors.
Yeah.
If you listen to the first episode of the actual Severance podcast,
Which
they
is
talk
our
with,
podcast. I'm kidding.
yes, yeah, they talk to Dan Erickson, and so the doors are a reference because he used to work for a door company, and he
Ah,
knows, like, he used to know all about doors. So I think this
right.
is just a little nod to that.
Yeah, like write what you know.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I loved too the music that they're playing when Dylan's driving.
Heading there. Yes.
And
Again, such a fucking cool director. I'm so sorry. He killed this shit. But yeah.
well, what it made me think is they use jazz a lot in these different scenarios, whether it's the musical dance experience or just the running in the hallways.
True.
And I think it's such a good fit because watching this show makes me feel like I'm listening to jazz.
Yes.
It
True.
makes sense. I can hear it, but I'm so confused at the same time.
Yeah, that should be Jazz's tagline from now on.
I named it.
That's funny. I agree. And it's not like over big because the show in itself is so much. So the jazz kind of soothes out what is happening or accompanies what's happening.
Yeah.
But then with this episode, we have a real song. Not like jazz is not real music, but we have an actual song with lyrics
Mm-hmm.
and it's like blaring.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of took me out of the Severance world. What about you?
Yes, and I think it was a good shift because we're kind of getting into a little bit of a different vibe through the next scene or two.
Scene. Yeah, like the outside world finally. I don't think we have had a scene of the Audis being outside with interacting with other people.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah.
Especially Dylan and Irving, which we don't see him as much, but Dylan for sure.
Yeah. And so I thought that was really cool and very smart of them to do it that way. Yeah.
The I think I mentioned this to you, and so if I didn't, I'm confusing you and our listeners. I In the trailer for one of the trailers for this season, I kind of thought that maybe they hinted at the innies and outies being two separate beings because there was a shot of Dylan with somebody at a table that looked exactly like him in the 2 seconds that they showed it, and it's from this scene.
This scene. I see how you made the mistake though, because I literally wrote down casting could have done something different here. Like it was two similar looking people. I did not like that. And then I was like, casting has the budget. Like, why was this on purpose? Do they really just fuck with this actor? Because I've seen him in other things too, and I forgot to look up his name. And I'm so sorry. You are loved, but yeah, why?
It had to be intentional. I don't know. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Because Dylan wanted the job because I was thinking, well, maybe if he looked a lot like him, then he would be like, "Oh, I don't want this to be my future." But that's not how the scene ends, right? So
No,
that
no, you don't
wouldn't.
even. Yeah, you don't really get that vibe from. I feel like Dylan's desperate for a job, so he's
Yeah.
not. Yeah,
And he
uh,
does like doors because he answered the door question perfectly.
yeah, he did. That's funny, but yeah, the that casting fucking tripped me out, and I need answers. Truly, I do.
Yeah, maybe they talk about in the podcast where they talk about it.
I'll listen to that
Maybe the
after.
experts will know. I think Dylan mentioning that he would be a pocket door though is such an amazing kind of reference to being an any and like an innie because he's like, oh, you can just tuck yourself away whenever you're done.
Yes, or like a severed person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed. Yeah, that scene goes so well until the final hour. Well, the final minute where he reveals that he is severed and immediately gets discriminated against. And that was
Yeah.
really sad.
I
I was like,
know.
oh
And
no.
I don't get it. I don't understand quite what I mean, I feel like the town probably just doesn't like that Lumen's overreaching, or they probably feel like they're overstepping their ethical boundaries.
Yeah.
But, you know, these people are choosing it because it's a job and it
Yeah.
fits their needs. Like Mark does it for a specific reason. I'm sure
Yeah.
Dylan probably has a similar kind of reasoning, or he has a reason for it.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
I don't understand why everybody else is being so hateful towards those people.
Yeah, I agree. And even in the first season, we see more of that, right? Like the discussion is about innies, addies, and how not deterred, but how like people got when they found out that Mark was a part of Lumen and stuff like that. And then even we had with Mark's best friend who died. What was his name? I do have that in
Petey.
Petey. Yeah, and then we meet his wife and daughter, and they didn't love the fact that he was severed. And even when I was rewatching season one, I was like, why would have like why would you hate it so much as a family member, you know? Because it's not like you don't get to experience the person. They are still who they are when they're outside. You just don't get to see who they are at work and who actually gives a fuck about who you are at work.
Nobody knows what their friends do at work. Nobody knows what their
Right.
spouse actually does at work. Let's be honest.
Agreed. And then when you do find out, you're like, it like breaks your brain a little bit about what you thought you knew about that person because you're like, wait, what? You're like this responsible adult who I don't know, does
Did you
like
actually do
accounting.
something?
Right, exactly. So it's like, no, I prefer this picture I painted of you in my head about what I know about you and not what you actually do for 8 hours of your day or something, which is hilarious to think about that we all feel that way, but well, most of us do. But yeah, I don't know why people are so hateful towards severed people. Maybe it's like a jealous hate of like they get to be two different people. I don't know.
I feel like I'm sure, learn a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I hope so. But yeah, I wrote down abhorrent because I was like, damn, he didn't have to say all that because that's what the guy says at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Either way, I find it abhorrent. I was like, okay.
And he says if you want to go circumcise your brain. I'm like, I'm gonna phrase it that way.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. We then see Dylan in his car, and he was kind of mean to his wife.
Yes. And then, okay, so earlier I said we find out like little bits about their Audis that I'm like, was that even necessary? Why was that phone call with his wife necessary? Us hearing her voice, you know?
I I don't know. I Mark in the next scene is also being very mean to Devin, and so I don't. They're all just being mean to their family. So maybe it was just to emphasize that. I also wrote down, and this was so small, and it probably was nothing, but when Dylan asked his wife, like, "Oh, do we need any more baby wipes?" and she's like, "No, I think we're good." He's like, "I'm gonna go get some anyway." And I couldn't figure out, was that just an excuse for him not to go home? Was it an excuse for him to go somewhere else?
Oh, I thought just not to go home. I feel like him even when he got fired, he was like, "Oh shit, I need this job." Like then it was he's like the main provider. I think he feels the stresses of being what like the main provider of his household, right? So yeah, I think he was just avoiding going home with a newborn baby. Yeah,
Yeah, probably a
because it
little
also didn't.
stressful.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like he has friends on the outside. Like we haven't gotten that. Well, from my character read of him, I haven't got that vibe of him having like a community outside of his family.
None of them seem to.
Yeah, true. Shit, true. Shit, true.
I didn't think about that till you mentioned it, and I was like, well, Mark
Maybe
only has
that's
his
the
sister, and Irving doesn't
Definitely
seem to
doesn't
have
have that.
anybody
Yeah.
except his
So now
dog.
it's like, yeah. So is that like, no, but then Petey had a whole family. Well, that was just his family, I guess, though. It wasn't
And I
like,
think he was divorced from his wife.
yeah, true.
I think. I could be
Yeah.
wrong on that one.
Yeah. Anyways, there's something
So
there.
yeah, yeah. We have Devin and Mark. They're at Pip's diner. Another continuity thing. Pip was one of the Egan's who was the CEO of the company for a while. So
Mm.
you'll like everything in the town is named after these people.
Okay, so it's definitely a Lumen town.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And Devin's pushing him because she's kind of expressing her, hey, I'm not sure that that's really what you meant. Let's find out. And then
Yeah.
Mark is just an asshole to her. He's
But
so mean.
I agree. But I also, when he like gets into why she needs to drop it and like where sh she's like, you know, kind of grating his gears about it, is he can't he can't believe that uh what's his wife's name?
Gemma.
Gemma um is not dead because he sees her body. Like he is like, I had to identify her body. So when you do find that out as an audience, I go, okay, I can see how he can generally not fathom there being another reality where she is alive. Like like a normal person. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't believe that shit. If you see a dead body.
Yeah, and Devin's really pushing it too. So I
Yeah.
think she just is pushing his buttons too much, and
Yeah. That
which
was
I
great
guess
writing
that
though.
is fair. Yes. I
Yeah.
I really like Mark and his sister's energy. I
Relation.
think
Yeah.
you really get to see Mark's Audi really well in those
Yes.
interactions.
Agreed. I agreed. And as someone, I have like two brothers, so I have a brother sister relationship, and I think they portray that so well in terms of their banter and their, yeah. It was great writing, and they delivered the words really convincingly.
They did. At the end of their little back and forth, we see that the Mr. Drummond has been listening from a booth a couple booths away.
Hmm.
Another continuity thing, he takes a sip of his coffee and he has frolic tattooed on his hand, like in
Okay.
between his thumb and his
I
pointer.
need
Did
to
you
be
not see
paying
that?
more attention. No, I'm like, okay, Chelsea's
Well,
out here like watching the show with freaking a magnifying glass to her
I'm really
eye.
I'm really trying not to. I'm just like keeping myself aware a little bit more, especially because I
Yeah,
watched it 3 times.
yeah.
And again, it only stuck out with me because in the break room from the new break room scene, they have all
Mhm.
these motivational posters, and I was
Mhm.
just reading them, and one of them said, "I'm a frolic aholic," which I thought was
Oh,
like
I remember.
one, not good phrasing, and two,
Yes.
a very weird one.
Yes, I agree. Because when
So
you think of holic, you think of like, especially in the office setting, you think workaholic. So yeah,
yeah,
I agree. Yeah,
so
frolic has to have another meaning in the Severance world. Definitely.
Lumen, Egan, Colt.
Yeah, definitely. And I can't wait to find out what that is. And also, please don't stop watching every single minute of every scene and identifying shit because this is incredible. And I think, yeah, I love it. I'm
Well,
getting a lot from it.
again, I don't think that I'm like piecing this mystery together. I really appreciate this continuity that they're really putting into each episode and the story as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. And again, it's like it brings you into this world fully, into the whole, yeah, Lumen world, Severance world. So I agree. It's a really cool, nerdy thing that they're doing. Yeah.
Another continuity thing. And so in the next frame or scene, if you want to call it a scene, it just shows Mark in his condo. I think he's looking out his window again to see if he can see Miss Cobell.
Hmm.
She's nowhere to be found.
Hmm.
He can't eat any of her shitty cookies. But he's feeding it these fish, and they're in a fish tank, and they're separated, and one's blue and one's red, and they're on opposite
Ah.
ends of each other.
What? I'm about to watch it. So I only watched this 2 times. I'm about to watch it for a third time. And I'm
Yeah,
gonna be like, you know that Leonardo DiCaprio meme?
yeah,
That's gonna be me
yeah.
throughout it.
Again, it was. I feel like it's just a little reference that kind of keeps that in the back of your head. You're not
Yeah.
maybe necessarily 100% noticing it, but it's something that will play into your brain as the scenes kind of unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, if we were saying this is a Lumen town and these are Lumen housings, it's like, did he get that fish tank? Did they provide it for him? Like, yes, I agree.
It probably
Does
was
he
just in his
know
apartment
the
when he showed up.
I agree. I really think so too. And I don't think he knows the deeper meaning of it, but they put that in there. And yeah, it's fucking awesome. I love it.
The next scene, again, quick little scene. Irv goes out to a phone booth.
Mm-hmm.
We see a car pull up behind him. He makes a quick call. Who has phone booths nowadays anyway? And he
Nobody.
says, um, he's leaving a message, and he says, "My innie got your message."
Yes. He's leaving
Who's he
it to
talking to?
somebody. I don't
How's
know,
he
and I
know that
can't
his
wait to
innie got
find
the
out.
message?
I know. Listen, this scene broke my brain because not only that, and then we see Bert watching him from his car. And I'm like, what is happening? Who is an innie? Who is an outie? Like Irving, there's so much to Irving. I don't think we have even scratched the surface about what he knows, how he plays the role into all this shit. Yeah, I don't know. Because even when Milchick comes, like in that first scene, he goes to fire him, Irving is very much like, what happened? Like, there's no inclination of Irving even feeling that he lost time, like his innie was in the real world, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like he definitely did know that. I think he played the lie way more than the others in
Mm-hmm.
regards to that OTC moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. How long has Bert been watching him? Does Irving, like, we don't see them interact, but we kind of see Irving look over his shoulder. Does he see Bert? Like, we learn nothing else
At
here.
all. And then also when you go back to season one, the way Bert just I need to rewatch it again. God, my brain hurts. Um, but the way we get introduced to Bert, was that on purpose then? Because that was a whole different area, but we haven't seen any other area. A lot's going on. I don't know.
We'll find
But
out.
yeah. And I can't wait to find out.
Um, Mark, then we see Mark back in his apartment after he's done feeding his fish, and he's changing the light bulb in his hallway. It is a reference to season one, episode one. Miss Cobell comes over to his house and she's like, "Oh, you need to change that light bulb." And he's like, finally changing it. But he actually doesn't change it because Milchek knocks on the door, presenting
So
him with
funny.
a beautiful basket, and is
Beautiful
trying to
basket.
convince him to come back.
Yeah. Which I was like, okay, let's see how this plays out.
And this is when I wrote down, why is Mark so important?
Yeah.
Because first they're just like, they didn't fire him.
Yeah.
And Mark was like, I don't know if I'm going to come back. And Milchek's like, hey, please come back.
Yeah. And then they give him all these incentives, like a 20% pay bump, a promise of like a wellness check for his innie. And then I think that was just it. And then he mentions Gemma again. Like, what is, I can't even remember what he specifically says, but do,
He's
okay.
he said, I think during the interview, Milchek says that Mark said that ever since his wife had passed, that every day feels like a year.
Yeah. Which, again, I think is if you have gone through grief and a loss of something, in those moments of when you're going through grief, time is like the longest thing in the world. And what people keep telling you is that, like, just give it time, you'll get over it, and you just look at every day like, holy shit, when is enough time gonna pass for me to finally get over it? And the answer really is never. You just like learn to live beside the grief. But yeah, I thought it was a really nice way of wording kind of like what grief, yeah, feels like.
And Milchek asks Mark, "Do you still feel this way?" Which we don't really get necessarily an answer, but I think that's that is what ultimately motivates Mark to go back.
Yeah, but then again, this is where I don't know if I'm being so, because Milkshake says your innie is happy, and I promise. What do you say? I wrote it down. The solace will make its way to you, right? Will it?
Mm-mm.
Because
He's just saying that. He's just
okay,
saying
thank
that.
you. Because if we're saying that Mark was like severely depressed when his wife died, and but then his innie clearly got over, or maybe didn't even, he didn't know, his innie didn't know that
Mm-mm.
he had a wife who died, who, so he didn't go through that grief, so he was way more happier. He only felt like sleepless and dread whenever he came to, because Mark was going through that, like Audi Mark was going through that shit. So for me, when Milkshake said that, I was like, what kind of, no. And also Mark shouldn't believe this shit. Like, what do you mean it's always what makes its way to you? Because the purpose is that they're separate people.
And Milchek kind of dangles the bait of you found your innie's found love.
Yes, that, oh yeah, that's what I also wanted to mention. That's also another uh proof of them, like everyone in Lumen knowing that him and Helly kissed and are together. Also in the first episode, oh, in the video. Yeah, you mentioned that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which that was like 24 hours before that, so like a day. I'm going to go another rant. I might cut this, but I want to discuss this with you.
Please
So
do.
this is when, on the third watch, I realized how important Mark was. And I was like, I can't believe it's probably like really taking me this long to like really, really have this as a thought. Is obviously they're doing some kind of experiment on Mark, right?
Yeah.
It took me this long to really piece that together. To like be really sure of it. I thought they
Well,
were experimenting on all of them,
I think they are.
but they didn't care if the other ones left. They just want, because they say
So the
we
others
just,
serve the purpose for Mark.
yes.
And I agree with that, because when in the one of the first two scenes where Helena is talking to Milchik about okay, everyone else was, oh, is it after the scene
I
that
think
we're
it's
about
after
to,
the scene, but
yes, yeah,
yeah.
sorry, yeah, you're right, we can keep going, but yeah, I agree. Now I thought it was all of them, so I was there with you, but now I'm fully there with you in thinking it's just Mark that
It's,
they're
yeah.
experimenting on.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and the next scene kind of goes into it. But when I had that thought, it reminded me of my initial thought from season 1 of the hallways. So the
Hmm.
hallways in the severed floor are so confusing.
Hmm.
And I think there's two, my theories, or what I got from that is two things. I think it's supposed to be confusing to keep the people working there confused,
Yes.
like at a casino. You know how
Yes.
the floor's all busy so that you stay focused on the one thing. So it's like, why there's the hallways are just boring white and very confusing.
Yes,
You
agreed.
don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And also, the hallways are kind of like a little maze, like a lab rat maze. And so if Mark is the
Ooh.
little specimen, he's doing this little.
Yes. What do they call that in English? Not imagery, but I, yes, I agree. Is it not imagery? I know what you mean though. I need to look up the term for what is happening, but yes. Um, yeah, that's a very cool comparison you made.
I don't know if it's real, but I think once we
No,
like,
that would make
they're really
sense.
emphasizing doing the experiment, or at least in my brain, I like really clicked. I was like, yeah, I think there's a lot kind of hinting at that.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I bet you Ben Stiller would be, and what's his name? Eric? No. What's his name? Dan
Dan.
Erickson.
Yeah.
And Dan would be like, "Damn, yes, she solved it."
They're like, actually, we didn't even mean that, but yeah, the 100%.
Sure, yeah. Let's go with that. Let's go with that.
Okay, I have two more thoughts.
Bring it.
I
I love
had
this.
so much. So in the next scene, we have Mark. He's in his car, he's debating whether to go back to work. He's in his car. He's looking at his badge, and I
Hmm.
think this is why I said that Milchek, him asking him if he still feels more or less as depressed as he did when he started,
Hmm.
In the opening, one of the opening scenes in season one, Mark's sobbing in his car before he goes in. And now
Mm,
he's not sobbing. So I think
mm,
Mark's thinking, well, I don't feel as bad. And
true.
so maybe this is being beneficial.
True. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that take. 100%.
And then another thing that I've questioned this whole time, and I just remembered to write it down, is why does everybody who works at Lumen have really old cars?
That's true. And
Is it
also,
because it's
what
cheaper?
year is this? Right, true. And also, what year is this actually set in, right?
Yeah, and I think that it's nowish
You
times,
think
but
so? Because of the
ish.
technology taking place? The technology that's being taken place?
I mean, Mark has a smartphone,
Yeah, it's true.
but I don't think it's taking place here. Like I don't think that it's our world that it's really taking place in.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Yeah.
It's somewhere else. It's a.
I'm just thinking about you saying maybe because it's cheaper.
I mean, that would be find a bunch of old cars.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe it's like a way for everybody, like um like for everybody to be living in the same playing field. But Devin and Rick, what's his name? Rickon?
Yeah, Rickon.
They've got a really nice house.
But they're not Lumen employees. And
True.
we don't know if they live inside the city limits.
True. Yeah, that's true.
So you said for them to all be equal.
Yeah.
And I might cut this part out for sure. No, I'm gonna.
She
The
won't.
thought, the thought that crossed my head though is so Cuba. If all in Cuba they all have the same cars because they
Yes.
got isolated when the Communist Party took over,
Yes.
and so like you're saying, it's all about. That's not as much as equality. It's a effect of them being isolated because of
Yes.
their
Yeah.
government.
I agree with that.
So just I feel like there is something meant by it. I don't know.
No, I agree with that. Even like them providing them the housing is very, for labeling, whatever, is very, I thought communism too. Like I was like, oh, this is very, everyone has the same shit, is provided the same quality of shit. Yeah. And I wonder why that is.
Do we think this is anti-communism propaganda then?
What is not anti communism propaganda in America?
Fair. Fair.
But, that's a different podcast.
So the next scene, Mark does walk in. We have Milchek, Helena, Mr. Drummond, and Natalie. They're talking about the team that Milchek got together,
Hold
pulled
on.
together. So we do
Yes.
learn that the 5 month from the last season is a total lie. That's just complete bullshit.
Like total lie. Even I feel like the days that we are then given is like really short. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, it's only been that amount of days.
he said 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And we did question the 5 month, right? We
Yes.
knew that that wasn't true to some extent, but we didn't know. But 48
Yeah.
hours. And when he mentions that he pulled two people that had been laid off from 5X, Mr. Drummond's like, really? He has some kind of like problem with it. I don't know what it is, but he doesn't like the idea of him pulling people from 5X, but he's like, I only have 48 hours. Get over it.
Yeah. Yeah. And also we don't know anything about these different departments. Right. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Which is,
This is the first time.
I hope we learn more about those.
I agree. But yeah, it was really cool to find out that what you also talked about in the episode one pod, um, is that they actually during their, what was the ball playing, get to know
The red
each
ball
other,
game.
yeah, game, that they actually really did not know each other at all, and they were all just faking the chemistry and the fact
Mm-hmm.
that they were a team or they knew each other.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to find out.
When we do find out that it's only 48 hours, I just remembered the newspaper because the newspaper was the only thing they didn't in the frame. There wasn't like a date on it, but that was the only thing I was like, well, there's a newspaper and there's a photo of them. Like something had to happen, but obviously that was just fake. It was a fake newspaper with a fake photo, and it
Mm-hmm.
made me think of the Truman Show because it's all to make him believe a specific thing.
Yeah, which I feel like is like one of my like top 5 nightmares is like I wake up and someone's just like, what's it called that people say that we're living in like
A simulation.
yeah, that's pretty much what they're doing to the innies and the Audis right now. Would you say they're trying to no, the Audis know the real timeline, but the innies do not.
Yes, but they are trying to manipulate the Audis to some extent. Or at least Mark,
Yeah. Yeah, true. I
uh,
agreed
to,
because
to
of the yes.
to the extent that they can.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also do want to, before we get into, because we're about to get into like the juicy parts now. It was all juicy, but when when Milchek then says the whole thing about hiring other people to like fake the shit to convince Mark as of whatever, we see that scene starts off with Helly looking at Mark. No, wait, Mark's in the car, and then it pans to Helly looking at Mark in the car. I don't know if you've seen, but that scene is all over my social media timelines.
What are they
Yeah.
saying about
And
it?
like a HD, like really good quality. They're saying there was this one tweet I really liked about how 2 characters are really 4 characters, right? And then also how in this moment of time they are so many different possibilities of how there's all 4 characters storylines are going to go, like how Severance has really just gotten started.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah,
for sure, for
right.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, so we get okay. There's a couple little back and forth scenes. This is a little bit after this starts, but I think it's and no.
No, it's right. It's right then. We see Mark going in and out of the elevator.
Well, so yes. And then we see the montage of his new teammates of them coming in, kind of how that first 48 hours played out of
Yes.
them arriving and then Mark and then leaving and Mark W getting fired
Yes, which I
and
loved that they included that Mark W firing because then you realize it's been 3 days because he says it's only been 3 days.
yeah.
Yeah.
And um what was I going to say about that? Oh, because in the last episode we talked about, you remember how you noticed that the clock was from 8:05, and then in the next scene it was 9:15, and I think
Yeah.
that was just to confirm that those individuals had showed up an hour before Mark did,
Yeah.
and so
True.
that's like when they all got there. That was when they first met.
And they were like trying to, yes, exactly, build the lie. Yeah.
What happens? So when Mark's coming back into the building for the first time, though, this is when Helena asks the team, like, "Are you all happy with this? Like, we got him back," and then Milchek's explained why he assembled the team that he did,
Mm-hmm.
and Helena says, "We just need him to come back to finish the cold water file."
Okay.
Cold,
Yes.
no, sorry, Cold Harbor.
Okay. Like cold, like freezing cold or
Yeah,
coal. Okay, cool.
Cold Harbor.
Uh huh.
Do you want me to get into that now, or you want to wait till the end of the episode?
Let's get into it now. Because I feel
Okay.
like, yeah, let's get into it now.
It's really actually not that big of a deal. It ties into the very last scene of last episode where you see him and I think this was such a great way to, because it is what he's doing. He's
Mhm.
refining his wife. And I
Okay.
went back and he's working on the Cold Harbor file, and it's
Okay.
also on that screenshot of her. So
Okay.
you were 100%, not that I questioned it, but I was like, oh, the way that you phrased it was perfect. And it was,
Yeah,
yeah, they made that
exactly what's going
connection
on.
in that
Yeah,
scene.
that's really cool.
And
Also,
sorry,
sorry. No, I
the
was
only,
just gonna say, I know we think it's like a Mart experiment, but how's Gemma connected? But keep going.
I don't know.
I know.
The only other thing that I thought was interesting is that it said he was already 67% complete. So
Mhm.
it's like he's already been working on it for a while. I guess he was
And
working on it before the whole OTC thing happened.
yes. And he's also been there for 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's 67%, 2 years, let's say he's doing like what, 30 something percent every year. So I would say another whole year before it's complete,
Okay.
right? I'm not
Yeah.
great at math, but
No, yeah, I think that makes sense.
yeah. Sorry, I had something to add. I don't remember, but I do want to say that I feel like what the show does such a great job of is giving us a lot. Like it does give us answers, but then you s- they still have so much rope. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but they also don't give us nothing, you know?
And it feels, and I think they demonstrate this with all the continuity. It feels very planned. It's not
Yes.
like, I think season one was written from episode one to episode eight or not, whatever the last one is,
Yes.
and I think that season two probably had already been mapped out as
Yes,
well. I think
100%.
I think multiple seasons have already been mapped out.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's like real story building from they already know how it's going to end and they had a beginning and an ending and now they're just mapping it out. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
agree.
Yeah. Let's see. The only other thing before Milchek goes on his apology tour to get the rest of the team back, when we find out they're playing the recording of Mark's talking to the intercom, talking to the board,
The board. Yes.
and Mr. Drummond says that they're going to give him what he wants. The board is going to give him what he wants, and he says, including Helly R.
Mhm.
The look on her face, she wasn't happy about, like, not,
She was
she
not.
didn't look like upset, but she was just like trying to process it. It was a lot for her.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree because I think she is down for the cause. Like she has to be in line. So she can't argue with any decision. Yeah.
And I think we, in the last episode, had a little bit of a debate. Is Helly R and Helena, is she still severed? And I think this is an example of how, like, they're just emphasizing that they're still two separate
Yes.
entities.
Yes, I agree. And listen, there's not a lot of things I like more than being right. And this episode, at the end of this episode, it gave me great satisfaction to know
Yeah.
that what we locked in guessing ended up being right. But let's continue.
Yeah. Milchik goes and, gets Irving and Dylan to come back. And let's see, what else did I write?
I also really did like because of how we know, again, big kisses to everyone involved. Because we did get a whole full episode of the innies aftermath, now we have the outies aftermath. I loved the Mark going back and forth to the elevator because we knew what was taking place down there, and that was fucking awesome.
100%.
Yeah.
The last big scene is Mark finally catches up to Cobell. She's leaving her house. She has suitcases, and this is, again, third time watching it. I was like, oh, maybe she's actually leaving.
Wait,
Maybe she didn't take the job.
this is like the final scene.
Yes. Was
But
there anything else that you noticed? Because they just show the montage of all the people coming in and out.
oh, you mean like Dylan, Irving,
Mm-hmm.
and Helly? Okay, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, I thought we did mention that, but yes, okay. They all go in, yeah, the elevator, and that's when we know. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
we've seen that in the first episode. Yeah,
And then,
and I do want to say again, I am online. I don't live under a rock. People online were like trying to decipher if Helly or Helena kind of like inserted her lanyard the same or her card the same way as the others did, and trying to see if it really was her that was going down there or if it was a severed, if it was Helly. And I had to watch, I only watched the episode twice, but I rewatched that scene like 6 times just so I was very clear of what was happening. So yeah, just again, want to confirm, definitely Helly down there.
and there was a little thing that I was like, does that confirm that she is or isn't?
Mm.
You always see Mark, and we saw Irving do this too. They put their phone in there, they switch out their lanyards, and they always take off their watch. And she didn't
Mm,
take off her watch. And I was like, well, one, why would they have to take off their watch if they're just going to put on a different one? Because they put on one
mm,
that doesn't have any numbers on it. But I guess it's because the elevator is supposed to be able to pick up numbers and letters and stuff.
right. Okay.
And she, I think, because Helly R is Helena, and Helena is like part of Lumen. She only wears, so you could see her watch, and it doesn't have any numbers on it, so she wouldn't have a need to change it
Okay. Got
because she's
you.
like
She already
already,
is part of that world.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She
Yes.
doesn't
Okay.
have to worry about it.
Okay. Cool.
So after Mark leaves, he goes home and he catches up with Cobell, and he confronts her. He really confronts her.
Yes. He really does. He like accosts her. He's like, "Yo, finally." I mean, he he has been creepily staring outside his window trying to catch her and figure
That's what
out
she's
when
been
she gets
doing to
home.
him for 2 years.
True, true. Very true. And like he had a better reason. So yeah, yeah. My bad, Mark.
Yeah, and she kind of calls him out too because she was like, "You're so easily swayed. Did they offer you a pineapple?"
Yeah, which oof, I know fucked with him. It fucked with me, and I was watching it. And I was like, damn, I felt like I was Mark. I was like, am I easily
You're like, "Oh, I should have asked for more."
swayed? Right. It's like a fruit platter is the only thing that's gonna fucking get me. Okay.
He got a 20% raise too, probably.
True. Yeah.
Hopefully. I think he's trying to get answers from her. He asks her, "Do you know about Gemma?" And she just stares at him from the car and screams and almost runs over him.
Yeah. There is a moment, and that's another. There are probably two scenes that I kept watching over and over just to like really understand what was taking place. And this was one of them. And when when he asked about Gemma, she like stares down. And I'm like, okay, that's the tell where he was like, she can't. And she is someone who stares you dead in the eyes, right? She's not afraid of eye contact. And that's also how she kind of asserts her dominance and her shit. So her looking down was an admission of yeah, there's something going on here.
And to me, it seemed like for a little bit she was debating because
Yes, agreed.
I think we've kind of confirmed she's leaving to some extent. She didn't take the new job that was
Mm,
offered. She has suitcases,
mm,
so she's going somewhere.
right,
So I think she was like, do I tell him something?" And then she
right.
just screams and goes batshit
Goes
crazy like
off.
she always does.
Yeah, agreed. Because also, if she's not a part, if she's like quit or whatever, and she's not a part of the shit anymore, it's like why should I even tell him if I don't want to be involved with the shit anymore? So yeah, there is that contemplation of should she or should she not? But then she is still so loyal to this
Kier.
fucking yes, this cult that she can't just say it, you know? Like she's a ride or die, Miss Cobell is what I've realized.
Yeah. I hope that well, you know how when Handmaid's Tale first came out, people would be like, "Blessed be,"
Yes.
or what else would they say? I don't know. People would like kind of say it to each other as a joke. I hope
Yeah.
people say, "Let Kier guide your hand," or
Yeah.
I want that
But
to catch
Kira's
on.
just I mean, no, Handsome feels very creepy, but Kira's just creepy.
Hmm.
It's creepy, you
Hmm.
know? But let Kira guide your hand. We can say that to each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's yeah. And that's that episode. There was so much that happened. I loved it so much. I'm so excited to see what they do now. I will
Agreed.
probably say that after every episode, so it feels a little
Yeah.
silly to say it, but
Yeah, that's why I was like, I feel like we just gotta let it marinate, let it, let this plane that we're on land, and then really give the I don't know props or awards to who deserves it. But I get what you felt in the first episode. If this is like in terms of directing, this episode blew me away. Sam Donovan is incredible. I like looked up his credits. He like of what was notable to me that I watched. He directed like 2 episodes of The Crown, and I want to go back and see if I fucked with those episodes just so I could see if he has always been this cool. And then also a show I loved, Skins. the UK version, the original version. He also directed a couple of those episodes, and he's British, so
Okay.
again, tracks in terms of the brilliance. I'm sorry, they make great TV, whether it's writing or whether it's directed. They know their shit.
Yeah. Yeah. They
Yeah,
do. They do.
yeah, pretty technical with it. And Severance is like a dystopian psychological thriller, right? And I think this episode, in terms of how it was directed, truly showed that. Yeah.
Yes, and I think it compared to the last episode, it was such a good contrast, and it flowed so well too between the innie perspective and the outie perspective. It
Yes.
matched it just perfectly. It was great.
Perfectly. Yeah, I agree. I also looked up if who was directing the rest of the episodes were out yet, and it is. So I just want to say that it looked like Ben is directing like 4 more episodes, Ben
Okay.
Stiller, and then Sam Donovan, who directed this episode, is directing the 5th episode. So I'm gonna keep another eye out for that to see if it's eerily similar in terms of lighting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the shots, how he had a lot of like long shots of things happening, like in terms of the depth as well, but also in terms of the pacing of like even the motorcycle scene and Helena like walking across the building to go meet up with Miss Cobell in that first scene. Yeah, it was really cool.
Did you happen to see if has he directed any other Severance episodes so far?
He has not. This is the
Okay.
first. He didn't do any of season 1. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure. Yeah, I didn't see that. This was his first.
All right.
Severance. Yeah.
Well, I loved it.
I did
Can't wait
too.
for the next episode.
I can't tell. Like, I feel like if it just keeps getting better, I don't know what I'll implode. I'll implode. So
I mean,
that's what everyone has to look forward to.
it can't get worse. It's only I mean, like it's only gonna keep getting better.
True. Yeah, that's true. We're in for a really cool ride, which I hope never ends, honestly, but it will. But I hope it doesn't.
There was one other tweet that I saw. I did try to because I hadn't watched it yet on Friday, and I was trying not to like spoil it for myself, and so I was just no Twitter for the rest of the day until I watch it. But I did see there were these 2 parody accounts, and one was Heliar, and it said, "I just had my first kiss," and then Helena responded to it, and it was like, "And it's gonna be your last." That was real funny.
That is funny.
That got me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's our recap for this episode then.
That's our recap. And now I'm really looking forward to Fridays.
Yep. All right. Well, we will see you later.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Are you watching this? Are you watching this?